and welcome to the Holistic Monitor. I'm your host, Nick Sconia, and tonight we have the author of Revolutionary Optimism. This is a fantastic look into how to be an optimist in your community and in your life. We have Dr. Paul Zeitz coming on. Let's bring him in. Hey, Dr. Paul, how's it going?
Hey, Nick, great to be here with you.
All right. So you just put out this book, Revolutionary Optimism.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I just published this May 1st, Revolutionary Optimism, 7 Steps for Living as a Love-Centered Activist.
I love that idea of an approach that everybody already knows is the way that things need to be or how they need to be, love centered, but they don't necessarily know how to get there. And I say that everybody knows that. Really, not everybody knows that, but they probably have heard it. Maybe in kindergarten, maybe in first grade or second
Mm.
grade, they hear that, love one another, and there's a whole, hoopla about it when you're really young. That kind of goes away elementary school.
Mm.
Maybe it's the playground politics start to kick in at school, but it seems to dissipate and disappear, and then people get into life more and get lost into the emotions. Love doesn't seem to be the main concern unless it involves a direct relation to them.
Mm.
Um, what do you find in your research for this book is the means for people to find love in themselves and in their community?
Thank you. That's a great question. So the book came from my own journey of healing from childhood trauma and the struggles that I've had to live a fulfilled life after a shattering childhood. And so I worked on myself really hard over many decades. And a couple years ago, I realized that 2024 was going to be an epic year
Hmm.
of fascinating political dynamics and super crises and a sense of despair and anxiety and at times hopelessness. I've had those feelings myself and I still have them sometimes. So I created revolutionary optimism as a cure for that anxiety, that despair. And it's a set of steps, 7 steps, and happy to go through them. But it includes like stories of real people and how they have generated themselves in the face of difficult circumstances to be optimistic and action oriented. And it's also got some practices or RXs, prescriptions,
Hmm.
practices that you can do by yourself or with others on how to live into and explore living with revolutionary optimism.
Hmm. Okay, so field guide with case studies in a sense.
Yeah, it's actually, that's a good way to call it, a handbook or a field guide. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's practical. Like I carry it with me because I need to do the practices as part of my life.
Yeah, and I bet that if somebody was carrying the book with them, it's a nice reminder of what they're looking to do and how they're looking to approach the world and their community and themselves. It also maybe brings up a conversation with those around them and how they are looking to inspire others. So maybe even having it in hand is a good idea.
Yeah, I do think that the 7 steps are about one's own personal journey. The first 3 steps are really about self-liberation, that process of figuring out how you want to serve, what your soul's purpose is, taming your inner dragon, and connecting with collective consciousness. So that's really personal work that we all have the opportunity to do. Step 4 is the peace crafting. It's the heartbeat of the book. And it's really about how we relate to others, like how I'm relating to you and how I'm relating to your listeners and any kind of interrelationship between yourself and other people. And so it has an approach to peace crafting
Mm.
that I created as part of revolutionary optimism, and I'm really living with it now. And it's really changing my life actually in many profound ways. And then the last 3 steps are then to work with others to unlock imagination, political imagination,
Mm.
unlock your visions, and then build movements. Do it together with others. We're not in this alone. that's a big theme through the book. We're actually in this together. And it's about building movements, love-centered movements. And then it's about taking revolutionary action. Step 6 is sparking peaceful revolutions. And it's about direct action and non-cooperation and how do we transform everything to create the world that we want. And lastly, it's unifying. Step 7 is unifying. Like, how do we, unify within ourselves and collectively?
Very good. Very good. So an activist handbook, so to speak.
Yeah, it's about love-centered activism. And I actually believe that everyone is a love-centered activist, or everyone can be. It's a way of thinking about how you live your life. So, because every love-centered action counts. That's a really important message I want to communicate, is that people are already living with with love-centered activism. Like, it includes the 4 circles of service, like taking self-love, taking care of yourself, anything that you do to care for yourself, to make sure that you're optimized in your life. And then it's about your family, your children, your parents, your partners, your loved ones, and then your community, your neighbors, and then the country or the world, the broader community. So you can serve in all those different ways and take love-centered action in all those ways. And it all counts.
Yeah, it all exactly. It's like little ripples that create bigger and bigger waves all the way outside of the pond. Yeah.
I really find that people frequently say, "Oh, what I'm doing doesn't matter. What I'm doing isn't enough. What I'm doing doesn't matter compared to what this one's doing or you're doing or whatever." Always the comparing. And I'm trying to dismantle that a little bit and say, "Hey, what you're doing counts and it matters,
right.
And it's great."
Yeah, there's an interesting saying that is always a reminder to me that comparison is the thief of joy. Is that looking to somebody else's gains should only motivate you to be more, in a higher potential for yourself, but not to compare yourself in such a way that limits or debilitates you in any way that brings you down.
Yeah.
I always
It
want to
kind
be
of activates
uplifted.
like a shame, or it's like a self-shaming or self-minimization or
Right.
self-diminution, putting yourself down a little bit. And I did this for decades, or I still do it sometimes, and I have to be aware of it. Like, okay, that's just like that in my inner dragon trying to tell me stories that aren't true.
Yeah. Yeah. We use that in our life energy practice. We use this dragon analogy as well as an energetic source of a draining energy that kind of commands and takes control of you. And so we talk about taming a dragon because you have to, because there is this force inside of you that kind of overwhelms you, makes you react versus act, and finding a way to become more self-conscious, more self-aware. I like your approach. It's all about love. It's all about generating that positivity in our existence, in our building of self-consciousness. We need to have an approach that also outreaches. So you have a program, is that right? That people can begin to bring in their community, bring in the world around them into this approach?
Yeah. So I also published, I'm very excited to share a journal and workbook, which is just focuses on the 23 practices in the book. And it offers guiding questions for groups so that want to explore revolutionary optimism together. And I do believe that each of the steps can take a day, a week. It's a lifetime of exploration. And so doing it together with friends or family or book clubs or church groups or civic groups or activist groups, it's a way of deepening friendships, as you said. I think that's really important. I think it's a way to build community, beloved community, by exploring revolutionary optimism. I'm hoping it'll be used in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that you said church groups. A lot of people think that universalism and ideas of consciousness are non-religious, but it really is an all-encompassing kind of thing, kind of like numbers, 1, 2, 3. this approach sounds like it's something that anybody can use. It's not limited to anybody's belief patterns or behaviors or anything. It's an approach that
Yeah,
can change
totally. I
the way that
mean,
they live.
I thank you for shouting that out. I've worked really hard to make it palatable and
Yeah.
acceptable to people of all ranges of beliefs, and all are valid or all are equal. And we talk about interspirituality,
Mm,
which acknowledges a space for people that have any religious identity, and many people have multiple religious identities. And then there are a lot of people that are spiritual but not religious. And then there's agnostics and atheists, and all are welcome into this exploration. I think love is something that is universal and is connecting. People have all had that experience, or most people, and it's something that we pine for and yearn for. But as you said, that was interesting. You're kind of like the perspectives of love through the life cycle. I hadn't really thought about that before, the way you said it, and it's true. We have a different understanding and a different relationship with love, or the concept
hmm
of love, or how we live into love in different phases of our life. And I'm actually inviting people with revolutionary optimism to explore putting love at the center of
mm,
my life, of your life, because that is what I'm doing. It's
yeah.
like a question that I ask myself: what would it look like if what word would I speak, and what action would I take if I put love at the center of my every step, my every breath, and my every action? And
Mm,
that's a daily inquiry,
yeah.
and a
Right.
daily practice. And then I went even further in the book, and that's why the second half of the book is really into the collective transformation. I asked myself every day, what would it look like if we put love at the center of our social, economic, and political systems? What if we created our reality with putting love at the center instead
Mm,
of what what's there now, which is not love, in my view?
right.
So I think we could, the idea is that the more of us that live love-centered lives, or acknowledge that we already are living that, then we have to choose to create social, economic, and political systems that are love-centered.
Mm.
That's work.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. And now, where can the listeners and watchers, where can they find this workbook and this book?
Yeah, so please go to www.revolutionaryoptimism.com, and you can buy the books through Amazon right there. And if you sign up to the list, you can receive a activist companions kit, which includes like daily messages, and it gives you access to the electronic version of the workbook, and it also gives you tools for doing book clubs as well.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. And now, if I was to grant you a wish and we were looking at this system, what would be your wish if you were to have a wish from a genie, let's say, and they said you want one thing? What could that be?
That's a great question. Well, I'm a physician by training, trained in public health and preventive medicine. And my training, the way my brain was trained, is that we figure out what the diagnosis is, and then we come up with solutions.
Right.
We do medicine, surgery, we do whatever we can to fix the problem. That's how we're trained.
hmm
So I have been studying our current situation. uh, I'm educated. I'm a doctor. I have a master's in public health. Trained in public health and preventive medicine. I've lived and worked in many parts of the world, and I have studied health. Health of the population, and the climate emergency, and the social determinants of health, which include race, and economics, and all that. And I've been really digging in deeply on racial equity in the United States for the last 4 years. And we're just coming up this week on the 4-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. And
Mm.
that actually led to the largest mobilization, public demonstration for racial equity, actually in human history,
Oh,
both here, history in the United States, but it spread globally. There was a global shift that started then. We're still in the middle of of a healing of the racial inequity that exists around the world. Yeah. So anyway, to answer your question, my one wish is that my diagnosis is that our Constitution is rotten.
Mm.
And according to legal experts, constitutions or legal frameworks like that go through cycles of, creation and renewal, and then they get rotten, based on the changing times
Yeah.
and the changing technologies and the changing reality. And our Constitution was written over 237 years ago by an all-white gentry, and the last time it expanded our rights was over 100 years ago when
Mm.
women got the right to vote in 1920. Women's suffrage came through, but since then it hasn't really been amended to meet the times. And so I think what we're seeing, all the rancor, all the hatred, all the division, all that is because the whole framework is not working and it's rotten. And the reason why we're not addressing the climate emergency, the reason why our health outcomes are amongst the worst in the of the developed world anyway,
Mm.
and all the economic inequality, the very rich and the majority of people really struggling to make ends meet every week. So it's we're in dire times, and I really wanted to. My solution is that we have an open democratic convention. We pick leaders through an open process. We really debate policies and politics. And politics is the competition of ideas. Let's destigmatize it, and it's fun to co-create. None of us has
Mhm.
all the solutions. We have to work together. I'm interpartisan. Remember, we talked about interspirituality. Let's be
Yeah.
interpartisan too, and recognize that we have to go beyond this two-party duopoly, this broken battle that doesn't solve problems. It just feeds on itself, and we can do better. Honestly, I believe that as people living at this time in our history, we can create a better political system, that we can create a better economy, and we can create a new way of relating to each other and relating internationally too, right? Look at the war
Yeah.
machine that's going away unbridled. I
Yeah.
don't think that's going to lead to any positivity. It's going to lead to suffering and destruction.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with that. I see that the future is leading us to an apex point for that world, which isn't love centered, into a world that is almost forced to be in a love centered way. If you have a mass population on this planet that you do, and you have to worry about strife and war and who's got the bigger gun, then you're not doing it right. Then you're not going to survive. That just seems to be the way of the world, is that if you can't come to terms, and I believe it's the Quakers that kind of emphasize what you're saying in a large way, which is that tolerance needs to be the law of the land, tolerance of one another, but not tolerance of intolerance. If there's a catch there, of course, right?
Yeah,
you,
tolerance.
you, you can't tolerate intolerance, but you have to be tolerant of all things, right?
That's good,
But
man.
to have that love approach in our daily life, um, again, like you said, the person in themselves may say, well, what good does it do if I'm doing this? It's doing good for them. And I think it's self love to start. It's to create a practice and understanding a way that you live that is centered around an approach of love first, that creates the waves that other people see as an example. And it's
That's
always
exactly.
good to have great role models that are playing out the actions of love for one another in any way. So if that person then says, well, what am I doing? Just do it and become that role model for those around you. They will see it, and it will raise the vibration, raise that love element up within the community.
Yeah,
Small
I
steps.
totally agree. I should have said this to you at the beginning. I apologize, but as a physician, I should have advised you that revolutionary optimism is contagious.
I'll bet it is.
And
Yeah.
And there's no known treatment or vaccine. So once you have it, it spreads. So
Yeah.
what you said is very true. Bravery is contagious.
Right.
Optimism is contagious. And love-centered action and acknowledging people in their love-centered action is a way of lifting it and spreading it, as you said.
Hmm.
And using love speech is part of peace crafting. So it really becomes a way of living and
Yeah.
a way of acting.
Now, what a lot of people will say is, I don't want to do that because then I'll be a pushover for somebody that doesn't do it, or somebody that's stronger, or somebody in my life is, very forceful and will take advantage of me. Are there steps and actions to take to, I guess, create boundaries?
Yeah, absolutely. As part of peace crafting, there's a part of it called building trust, and I offer a concept which is called a trustometer. A lot of people, like myself included, I used to think of trust as an on and off switch. So, like, I trust you or I don't. Like, if you did something to me, then I don't trust you forever. And I used to apply that even in my advocacy and campaigning work. Like, if a particular leader of an organization or a set of organizations was doing something that I didn't think was the right thing, or I thought it was undermining what I thought was the right thing, then I would not trust them forever.
Right.
So my colleagues and I created a trust meter, and what that does is basically allow it to be a dynamic
Mm,
where any one or any group could go up or down on the trust meter. And yeah, there are boundaries where, if something's toxic, you can say, I love you, but I don't trust you, and I'm gonna not relate to you. So
yeah.
it's very important discernment about
Yeah.
setting healthy boundaries. And that's at an individual level and at an organizational or movement level as well.
Right.
And then I actually for step 6 is called Sparking Peaceful Revolutions, and it's really a very practical guide for when you do direct action. And it also, what I have experienced having done direct action, where I'm on the streets, where I've gotten arrested for standing up for a cause, and what I've learned is that it can attract people who can be unhealthy or who can be toxic. So I've learned to identify some of those signals so that I can stay safe and protect myself. Because self-care is part of self-love, and self-protection is part of all this. So, and recognizing that people have trauma, all of us have some kind of trauma, and that we have to be compassionate and empathetic, but also we have to stay safe. So it has to
Yeah.
be trauma informed as we go forward.
Yeah, I think it's very important. The boundaries, knowing where you stand, having a plan,
Right.
and that discernment is a very important thing. And to say, it doesn't feel right, and know when to say when. A lot of people have trouble saying no. It might be part of their inner dialogue, or a dragon, as it would be, that's not
Hmm.
allowing them to create that boundary. That
Right.
creates a situation or a pattern. But always having that approach. Now, I'm at the crossroads. What decision do I make? It's not about the other person. It's, how do I approach this decision point where I make a decision, and that decision should be one that leads to your best and highest, a love-centered approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to go back to something you just said, which was very, very important. You talked about the apex of what's happening in the world right now. It feels
Hmm.
like, and I heard you, this is what I understood you to say. It feels like we're heading down to a path of suffering and destruction.
Mm,
Um, and I actually agree with you in some ways, but I really think we're at a crossroads. And I think we have the violent revolutions already underway. We have the street violence, the mass incarceration, the gun violence, the gun shootings, the wars, the resistance fighters. All the violence is unfolding, right?
yeah.
What I'm advocating for is, in response to all that, is a peaceful set of peaceful revolutions happening where we all rise and say, hey, we want to do it a different way. We don't want to go down that path. So steer it a different direction. And
Hmm.
I think humanity is going through a passage. we're going to be going through difficult times. We're suffering from the climate emergency already. We're suffering from, as you said, 8 billion people on the planet, going to
Right.
10 billion. The population is continuing to rise. And the challenges are immense. But if we unify and work together, I think we can we can bring the best solutions forward. And we need all hands on deck. We need to work together. These
Yeah.
are really big challenges. And to transition from trauma responses so it's like the inner dragon is acting itself out in our greater reality. All that
Right.
violence that I described, that's just the inner dragon just going haywire, and
Hmm.
ruling the roost, Then there's
Yeah.
that other part of our inner self that sees our connection, our love-centered view, the possibilities of living together peacefully and with in a healthy relationship with our planet,
Hmm.
so that we
Yeah.
can sustain for future generations. So our children, our great grandchildren, their children, so future generations have a shot
Right.
at an existence of some joy, like you were talking about. I really agreed with that. So yeah, that's why I offer revolutionary optimism now. It's like we really need to break out of our skepticism and cynicism and hopelessness and despair and take action, because the future really depends on it.
Yeah. And I mention it often on the show. I see that a optimistic and utopian future, having a goal or a guide for that is really important. I always look to Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry's creation of this ideal in the future of community and of the way that the society acts is kind of necessary, that things are kind of taken care of, that war isn't really something that we're dealing with at home. It's something that maybe we see out in the world, or in the universe, I should say, that has to be dealt with, but from a society that's already under control and has things kind of figured out, is looking at a peaceful approach to existence. Everybody has a job. They don't necessarily need to succeed forward, forward, forward. They might find something that they like, sitting in the captain's chair or the admiral's chair or the navigator's chair, and never want to leave that spot. That might just be their sweet spot. I love to fly the ship. Okay, great. you know, there may not be a need to just kind of always achieve and be going further and further up this ladder of whatever, of attainment, of endlessness. There may be a place where people feel comfortable, where they feel like this is my role. But it's going to take us a while to break this striving, striving, striving. I think that's driving a lot of our issues, is this demand for more, 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 and not being satisfied with that which we've attained, and
Mhm.
personal development or community development.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I just hope it can happen. I believe we're approaching a tipping point. Now, I don't know what
Yeah.
that tipping point is. I don't know if it's 1.4 billion people out of
Hmm.
8, or it's 4.1 billion people out of 8. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel
Yeah.
like more and more people are getting what you just said and are shifting into an awareness of the value of just being and
Yeah.
being satisfied, and recognizing that that's the inner dragon that is like trying to feed itself and is never
Hmm.
satisfied. And it's that inner dragon that is manifesting in our collective action as well. So that's why the more of us that get that and shift that inside of ourselves, then we can, bring that broader transformation forward. If we're checked out in despair or skepticism and minimization of, that's just the dragon winning.
Yeah. Right.
So it is a healing journey for each of us, and it is about our collective healing as well. So this is a big opportunity, and I feel like we're ready. Many people are ready. Many people want to see things go a different way.
Yeah.
The world is ready for a new regenerative economics instead of an extractive economics. We're
Hmm.
ready for common sense solutions instead of the constant battle, that separates us, that's designed to polarize us. So yeah,
Right.
we're on the cusp of it, I hope.
Yeah, I think that most people would agree that feeling bad isn't great. That feeling run down and feeling lack isn't a great feeling. That feeling complete, feeling whole, feeling happy is more a good thing to experience versus the other. And for me personally, when I look at the developments of AI, for an example, I see that as almost like a Hail Mary pass to society. And I know that it's like a secret weapon as well, but it also could be this thing that equalizes, takes the burden off of a lot of human need, and takes it under its wing as an automaton in a sense that may allow us to uh, ease the suffering a little
Mm.
bit in life, where we're able to do things and follow a pursuit that maybe isn't something that's just driven on money, but that allows us to follow some kind of path for ourselves that we feel, hey, this is the direction I want to go. And
Hmm.
AI being something that, and I'm just really generalizing, but this ability for technology to take some of that life burden off of our shoulders and off of mass population's shoulders could be this thing that allows us to step up in a sense and rise up, and we can be more positive. We don't have to be barbaric and warring and constantly striving. It's utopia, of course, but we have to get there. We have to do it in a conscious way for ourselves first, and then those in our community, obviously. But I see it as kind of like this little something waiting to be utilized in such a way that will allow us or grant us this pause, perhaps, in our humanness and our animal behaviors to maybe treat one another with some respect, knowing that there is this underlying unifying artificial intelligence that's there.
Yeah, that's a profound possibility that you're describing. I agree with you that we should aim for harnessing artificial intelligence and data and information and communications, all the way that technology has transformed our every existence.
Right. Yeah.
And we have to bring great intentionality to harness AI for the common good, for
Yeah.
solving these major challenges, addressing these super crises, while advancing equality and freedom for everyone. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I mean, that's the challenge I see is that the technology is evolving at a warp speed,
Yeah.
and the social, economic, and political systems, particularly the political systems and the social systems, are way behind,
Yeah.
and they're not adapting with the velocity of the technology. And AI is actually going. We've already been dealing with this, right? All the apps, all the uh, the complexity of all the passwords we have to keep is
Hmm.
just a sign of it, and how we know we're being monitored by all the social media, and by
Yeah.
Siri is listening to everything, and Alexa, and all. It's like everyone knows like something weird is happening. Well, AI is going to disrupt everything even further. It's going to
Yeah.
disrupt the workplace. It's going to
Yeah.
replace human requirements for many tasks,
Many tasks.
and
Yeah.
that's going to create instability and uncertainty, and it could create a lot of fear and a lot of violence. So we have to be really careful, and it could be used, as you said, for negative purposes. So it has to be
Hmm.
regulated somehow. But who regulates it? I mean,
Yeah.
how do we trust the people that are in charge to regulate it now? We already know there's an AI super war going on
Yeah.
between the U.S., China, Russia, Iran. They're all competing to control AI.
Right. That is that, and technology, and in general, and technology generally is space advancement, weapons, things that are military oriented versus social. They're not necessarily something that we're going to benefit from uh, in a war sense, but not necessarily in a societal sense, if that makes any sense at
Yeah, I
all.
mean, we could forget. That's what I'm saying. That's my
you know
argument, or that's my
yeah.
my position, my stand actually, as a I take the stand for putting love at the center of all this. And I say, yes, we can harness technology and AI for common good, and we should shoot to the stars. We should travel the universe, is, taking a riff off your Star Trek
Right,
analogy.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should be exploring. But for us to be able to do that as humanity, we have to figure ourselves out, or
Yeah.
else we're going to self-destruct and destroy ourselves, sooner than later. Like,
Right.
I don't think this is in the way future. I think it's in the next 100 years. So
Yeah, even
what
maybe
we do
sooner than that.
now in our lifetime, your lifetime, my lifetime, our children's lifetime, really will determine the trajectory forward.
Hmm. Yeah, it might even be sooner than 100 years. Just look at the pace that things are going. We're really on the precipice of a gap of something, and a gap of the normality, let's say, of the normal course of things.
Yeah, I
And
agree with that.
the way we come out of it on the other end, we want to have tools. And I think that maybe is why having your book and having your process for people having it figured out, um, as a mental tool that people can pull out and utilize in their daily life, is a good thing, is something that we want to have on the other side of that gap, on whatever is coming. We want to have practical tools to approach our world in a positive way, to direct it in a way towards utopia and not dystopian, because we don't want to live in Mad Max. We really don't. The end all
I
be all, we
I
don't want
agree.
that.
Nope, I agree.
I think most people do. It's not, we don't want to deal with that. We want maybe to be left alone, but we want to do that in peace and in harmony and in a happy way.
Yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
about individual freedom and liberty, and
Right.
yeah. So what you said is my greatest hope. That the book, as you said, it's like a handbook, or what you called it, something else in the beginning.
Guidebook.
Guidebook,
Yeah.
yeah, for this time, for this difficult passage that we're going through. As you
Hmm.
said, that we're going through something and it's tough, and we need to support each other, and we need to support ourselves to figure out. It's like, I feel like revolutionary optimism is a way to make sense of what's going on too. It helps you understand what could be going on.
Right. How we can approach life, and actually having practical tools. That's something that we need. We need to know, like, what are the ABCs? What are the methods that can be used for positive change, and how can I make that happen in my life, for my family, for my community? And it sounds like the book contains all of that, which is why I definitely think people should pick it up and start living a different life.
Yeah, building on what you're already doing and acknowledging yourself. And yeah, I think revolutionary optimism, I hope it's a what I realized as I was writing it, it was like the book I wished I had when I was 15 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. I would have
Hmm.
even taken it at 60, because it's just got like it's all in one place. And
Yeah.
I appreciated that. I would have appreciated having something like that uh, on my journey much earlier. So
Hmm.
I love it. I'm using it now, and I'm growing and learning and stretching and living into being a revolutionary optimist. Optimist. It's a daily journey, and I appreciated what you said about there being different roles for everyone. I want to just highlight that,
Mm.
because I do in the book, throughout the book, reiterate that and actually help people understand what different roles are in different aspects of the book. So when I talk about movement building, there's many different roles that people can play. There's many
Right.
different roles that you can play with direct action and peaceful resistance. It can be from your home or your desk. You don't have to be in the streets. You can provide food for people that are doing direct action. There's all many ways to serve.
Right.
So there's no right or wrong way either, and it's also like you can step in and out of it, right? It's like when you're ready, or when you're
Hmm.
feeling up to it, or whenever you choose. So there's no. That's the self discernment about choosing how you want to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing the boundaries for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah. What you're
exactly.
able, capable, willing, and able to do. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, fantastic. I really absolutely love the topic, and I think that this book will be a really good thing for people to have to kind of look at in that four agreements kind of way, where that's just could be a life-changing book for people to start reading and and doing doing something in their community, doing something for themselves in a positive way that they can see change happening. I think that's really important. And now the website where they can get it again at revolutionaryoptimism.com.
Yeah, that's the perfect website, and you can get the companion kit with that. And look forward to supporting you. Let me know how I can support you as you go through your revolutionary optimism exploration.
That's fantastic, Dr. Paul. Any last words for the listeners and watchers?
No, thank you. I really appreciated your analysis and your perspectives. I learned a lot, and thank you for that. And thanks for having me on.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Paul. Really appreciate it. Until
Peace
next
out.
time, take care.
Yep.